Yeah, only
Problem because it is actually in the Ethiopian Bible.
Theorist.
Sure.
What's up, everybody?
The guy from
Well-
he's talking about Stephen Myers, the one from the Hoover Institute.
Yeah, that's from Stanford.
Because plants don't feel pain.
Gender, right? God in the Bible has preferred pronouns. It's a he, him. It's a king. It's not a god. It's a god, not a goddess. Lord. These are all masculine. But God has no biology prior to the incarnation. Okay. God doesn't have chromosomes prior to the incarnation. It wasn't a man or human before the incarnation. So then when one of the persons
Okay. That's kind of interesting because I feel like to an extent I agree, and there are certain aspects I feel like that just don't really align with, like what you said doesn't really align with my understanding of at least the doctrine, the word that at least I hold. So there's aspects of it that I don't necessarily agree with, but for the most part I would say I do agree with what you're saying.
Well, that's good. I think part of why I run that argument is that a lot of people on the right, especially religious right, hear transgender and think bad thoughts, and then they resist the argument. And that's it's like I'm taking an aim at those people because there are some I guess, bigoted Christians that will say, okay, under that definition of trans, Jesus is trans, so what? But a lot of Christians can't bring themselves to say that they have to fight the argument, and because they just have a political agenda to be against transgender, to be transphobic or whatever. So that's the point of the argument.
Okay. So kind of with that same mentality, can I ask you a question based off of that?
Yeah, cool.
Do you think that because everyone kind of starts off as either binary, non-binary, or like genderless, and we kind of adopt a gender within our lifetime based off of I guess environment and people around us and experiences that we have, that we adopt a gender, does this kind of make everybody trans?
No, remember that my definition is you have to intentionally change your gender. So
okay, I get what you're saying.
So you have to have a previous state where, like, okay, I am of this gender, I'm genderless, and now you're picking up a gender or you're changing your gender. When we assign gender, and people are kind of raised into the assigned gender, people don't think to themselves that their gender had changed. It was just assigned.
I kind of got to think about that one because I feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like I'm still having the whole issue with, it's still like this idea that is kind of taught to us, and if we didn't have the experiences that we did, we probably wouldn't even, I mean, like to an extent, it's kind of cultural also, because there are other cultures other than, like, let's say outside of the Western civilization, where
say that again.
There's other cultures that don't actually use genders in the same way that we do in Western culture.
Like for what?
I was gonna say like in French or German or Russian, Spanish, gender's a little bit on a different plane. And then if you move into something a little bit more like
gender, certainly concepts of gender are different throughout time and location. I'm fine with that. But the point is that I think there's been consistently a distinction between what biologists study in humans and what we understand gender, or male, female, man and woman, on a broader societal level. And so that's the distinction that many people on the right, socially right, have not comprehended. That what biologists are talking about when they're talking about male and female is not what we're talking about when we're talking about male and female.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do think that most people who really don't are not really familiar with whole concepts and don't really get into these conversations, I do see them misconstruing gender and sex interchangeably, which is kind of problematic. Okay.
So as far as to say that even male and female, as we use them, are more like gendered concepts than the kind of concepts that biologists use.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's
I
fine
agree.
to say, for instance, that a man, or let's just say a woman, right? The Matt Walsh, what is a woman? I'm fine with saying that a woman is an adult female, and I'm fine with calling trans women females. But that sense of female is like the gendered sense of female, not like what, like I said, anything to do with the proportions of gametes amongst the population of, like, I'm not talking about that, right? So anyways, I'm gonna go to the next person. I appreciate your question.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Have a good one.
Yep. You too.
He was nice. I like nice people.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What do you want to talk about?
Cool. Well, I'm a Christian, so I like want to talk about that. But I guess I just, like, if you don't mind, I just want to ask you a couple questions because I want to get to know more about you and like how you think and stuff, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So are you like certain that God doesn't exist, or that you can't know whether he exists or not?
I'm pretty certain that God does not exist. Pretty certain.
Okay, cool. Like how do you know that?
Well, mostly because of things like the problem of evil,
Okay.
the fact that God will never count as a good explanation for anything. So positing, looking into the world and positing God as a cause will never be justified. And also, as far as the mind goes, every mind that I come across has a body. So it's unlikely that there are any minds out there without bodies. So those are some reasons
Okay.
why I think that God
Okay.
does.
Okay. So given like that God is by definition like a spirit, how much sense does it make to decide whether he exists using your like 5 physical senses?
Well, the point is that if God is spirit without a body, then there's going to be a problem with coming to know about it via experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's kind of part of what I was saying. That if there are gods out there that have bodies, then that might make more sense to me. But on the classical theistic model, God has no body, and so there's going to be a big problem about. There's going to be a whole barrier of how we can know about it, even if it does exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And like, did you use your reasoning to determine that God does not exist?
Yeah, sure, I could say that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. How do you know your reasoning is working like correctly?
So how is it that you're asking? How do I know my justification is any good? Is that what you're asking?
No, like if you're using your reasoning to, like with what your reasoning is to determine that God does not exist, how can you know that your reasoning is working correctly?
I don't know if that's an intelligible question. To me, it sounds like, how do you justify logic? And I don't think that question makes any sense. Because
Okay.
to justify logic, you need logic.
Okay,
Right?
but
So no
yeah,
one,
yeah.
God, if he existed, is going to be able to justify their logic because they're going to use logic to justify logic.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Bible says that like skepticism about God is the result of like. Sorry, I think I cut out. But sorry. So the Bible says that skepticism about God is the result of a mind suppressing what knows to be true. Have you ever tried doubting your doubts about God?
Oh, I used to be. I deconverted about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, can I ask why you deconverted, or like if you
But the
don't
reasons
mind?
that I offered were big ones.
Oh, okay. So like what else can I ask?
What kind of Christian are you? Catholic, Protestant?
No, I mean, well, I'm a baby Christian, so I was born
Are you over the age of
into.
not that much baby?
I
Right?
am. I'm 21. 21.
Okay, making sure.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah,
how long
yeah,
are you
yeah.
a Christian?
So, well, I like my mom. I was baptized when I was a baby, and then I went through like a lot of trauma and stuff. Like, cause I moved here from Venezuela like when I was 3 years old,
Okay.
and then I got through some like foster system stuff and like just a bunch of trauma and stuff. That so then I didn't believe that there was a God, like as well. Like for the longest time, like I was agnostic or atheist or whatever, you know. I never said out loud that I was an atheist because I guess it was just because I wouldn't know. There's like all the knowledge in the world. Say we drew a big circle of like all of the knowledge and wisdom and all of that stuff in the world. I would only fit into a small category of that. So that's why I would say like I'd be agnostic, right? And then I guess like it was about this time last year where I was so deep into like just depression and you know all that stuff to where I like had no one else to turn to. So then I started doing more research and more Bible study and stuff like that, and it just started making sense to me. And I understand that some people may not think that way, and that's totally okay. Like I guess what I'm trying to do, like as a Christian, is I just spread the gospel in like a way that I can, and if people choose not to believe that, then that's fine. It's not my place.
So about the problem of evil?
So the problem of evil, okay, so God
I
openly
would keep the list of questions because there's not one problem of evil. There's like multiple ones, and I have
No,
to
yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, of course.
Does God
Yeah,
have
no,
control over the amount of evil?
So, okay, and I know that you don't want to hear the plain old, we are descendants of Adam and Eve, and they're the first people of
This
all
is
that.
your view. You can say what you want.
Yeah, yeah. So like I like a lot of people ask that. So where did evil come from, and why is there so much evil and suffering and
But I'm not
all that
asking
stuff?
that.
Oh,
I'm not asking, does God have control over the amount of evil?
I guess the evil is essential to faith. I'm not going to say he created it because he didn't create it. He willed it to happen. He willed it to happen because
Thank
Satan.
you for the $5. I see that on the cash. Sorry, I have to do the shout outs.
Yeah. Like, and I'm sure you know this too. Like God like willed that evil and suffering to happen, and all that evil into the world because it was essential to happen. And God does not we're not supposed to beat around the bush and say like, oh well, maybe it was this reason that evil exists, when God openly admits that this was his will for that to happen.
Okay, but remember with the question, it's to me it's like a yes or no, or I don't know. Does God have control over the amount of evil? I think you're saying yes or no. I don't know. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, like again, I'm still a baby Christian. You know what I mean? Like I can't really like answer that question. I believe that he is all powerful, and if and so for that reason, I would say that
you lean yes.
I would probably lean yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Does God need evil to accomplish his goals?
Yes.
Okay, could he accomplish his goals without evil?
Yes, I believe that, but well, so if there was just good in the world, and there was no bad things happening, and I know a lot of people don't believe in free will, but free will is also another thing that God gave us, is free will, right? And so if there was no free will, I believe that free will was more important to God than disallowing evil.
Okay, so you're saying that evil is necessary for having free will?
I think that free will is more important than disallowing evil.
Right, because the point is that if God prevents or controls the amount of evil, then he sacrifices free will. That's your view, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that free will, if there's free will, then there has to be evil in some way.
Yes.
Okay. Does God have free will?
Yeah, you know, he can. Well, he's perfection, so he can't do evil.
Okay, so then that means that you can have free will and not necessarily have evil.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about God, right? Like we and for you, because you deconverted to atheist, right? I'm sure that you understand it, that you know God is all, or that Christians say that God is all powerful and he can't do any bad things or any evil things or anything of that sort, you know. So he is perfection, right?
Yeah.
So like evil for humans, because we're born on this earth with and we have sinful nature because we're descendants of Adam and Eve. So
Okay, so there's the sinful nature thing is one topic. I'm gonna try to avoid that for right now.
that's fine.
I'm gonna agree with you that if God can't lie, that doesn't mean he doesn't have free will. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that it depends on how you're defining free will, but let's just define it the way that I have a lot of Christians define it. That you could whatever you did, you could have done differently. Is that kind of the free will you're working with here?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I kind of zoned out. I'm so sorry.
So that's fine. So I'm gonna try to work with your sense of free will, and I'm guessing your sense of free will means that if you did something, you're free if you could have done differently. Is that how you're using free will?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so for example, like there's some things that I disagree with in the Bible, right? Like, you know, but because that I say, you know, that the Bible is truth and everything like that,